Robert Munsch by Cierra. Robert Herman Peter Maria Munsch was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania on June 11th, 1945. He was one of 9 children. His mom always said he was a kid who never grew up. Robert struggled in school as a young child. Spelling and math were especially difficult for him. He would use his fingers for basic math, even going into high school. He decided he wanted to be a Judas priest. While studying to become a priest, he earned his Bachelor of Arts in History and his Master's of Arts in Anthropology. He later earned his Master's of Education in Children's Studies. He took many different paths before he became an author. After high school, when he studied to be a Judas priest for 7 years until he decided that was not for him. While deciding what to do next, he took a job working in a daycare. He discovered he loved working with the children, and also he had a talent for telling stories. He always loved involving the children in telling the stories. When the daycare closed, Robert and his wife decided to move to Canada. There he taught in the College of Family and Consumer Studies at the University of Glenbin. He also worked for the university's preschool. The librarian heard him telling stories to the children and insisted that he write children's books. His boss agreed and gave him time off to write. His boss originally had gave him 2 months off of work to write. He enjoyed those 2 months, and on the last day before going back into work, he decided to write down 10 of his stories and send them to 10 different publishers. All but one said no. Then he published his first book, Mud Puddle. Since then, he has published almost 100 children's books. After his first book, Mud Puddle, it sold 3,000 copies its first year. His publishers kept publishing more and more of his books. After a while, he was able to quit his job at the university and start writing full-time. Munsch uses the children he meets to help create his stories for his books. He listens to the stories they tell or ones they may create together. He will also use that child that helps him create the story to be the main character of his book. Munsch's publisher had a problem with him switching the main character with each book. Since they were based on the children that helped create them, Munsch refused to stop. In 1986, he wrote the famous Love You Forever. It was written as a memorial for his 2 stillborn children. His publisher did not want to do it, so Munsch decided it was time to switch publishers. It went on to being a bestseller 3 different years, sold 30,000 copies its first year in Canada, then became a bestseller in the U.S. and sold 8 million copies by 1994. Some interesting facts. Munsch loved traveling to schools to read to classes, but he always did it in a unique way. He would never tell the school he was coming. He would pick a school he might have received a letter from as he was traveling and just pop in and surprise them. Another unique way of traveling was that he stayed with families of the children he would visit. It started out as a way because he couldn't afford much money. He didn't have much money to afford hotels and stuff to stay when he was traveling. But even after becoming more famous and having the money to stay, he still preferred to stay with families. He got a lot of ideas for his books hanging out with the children. He would also use his time flying by making up stories and would find a child to help him if he could. Some awards and recognitions he received were in 1985, he got the Juno Award for Children's Album of the Year for Murmel Murmel Munch, a collection of Munch telling 14 of his stories. In 1986, Ruth Swartz Children's Book Award for Thomas the Snowsuit. In 1987, the Vicky Metcalf Award for Children's Literature. In 1999, Munch was made a member of the Order of Canada. In 2009, a public school in Whitby, Ontario was named after him, the Robert Munsch Public School. And in 2009, he also received a star on the Canada's Walk of Fame in Toronto. So with some of his health, he had problems. He struggled with addiction his early adult life after being diagnosed with obsessive compulsive and manic depressive. He did receive treatment for this addiction and his mental health. As of today, he's been diagnosed with dementia, with the diagnosis being in October of 2021, and has since stopped writing and doing school visits as it has affected his day-to-day life and can no longer write or do simple tasks anymore. And here is my works cited page. Thank you very much.